All right, today is December 16th. Some of us were just on for a little discussion. So we're back again. How many are going to eat a little bit and then we're on. So welcome everyone. What tonight is about is a discussion of this thing called body electronics and really the new version, what I've added to it called meta body electronics. So we'll do Q&As tonight. We'll do some discussions of people who have had experiences with this stuff, what to prepare for, how to get ready, all that kind of stuff. The way the sessions roll, that kind of stuff, and how different it is from anybody that did body electronics a million years ago versus where we are now, because it's much easier. Thank you very much. And I'm going to say even more profound because we do a whole bunch of prep work ahead of time. We've got more skill set, conscious language, imagination, outcome facilitation. I love a touch, a breathe, a stay, a feel, all that kind of stuff makes, it's just such a different thing. This is something I've been doing since 70 something, late 70s. And I still do it. It's been a couple years, I think, since the last one we did. I think Adam and I figured like two and a half years ago, right? Something like that.
Yeah, June of 2018.
Got it. Like you said, June of 2018. Like, isn't that like an element, a millennium backwards? Because 2020 has been like anybody, anyway, we won't talk about that. It's going to be 2021 shortly. So I'll build a little context of how many have done body electronics before? Let's just start with that. 1, 2, 3, 4. How many are newbies to? Okay, good. Awesome. Body electronics, Dr. John Whitman Ray, back in late 70s, put on an instructor level, a whole bunch, all his classes, health, human mind, body electronics, spinal electronics, and cranial electronics. So he did 4 things. He also did one a 2-month class, visualization and consciousness. I did all of his week-long instructor trainings like 5 times. And then I did visualization and consciousness once, did the first one. I gave John his first cranial. He'd done hundreds of cranials before, and I gave him his first cranial because he requested it. And I'll talk about that in a minute. Also, before that, I gave his wife at the time, Eleanor Ray at that time. Now it's Eleanor Butler. I gave her first cranial. And so, you know, it's like something in me, I'm like, you want me to do that? Well, I mean, come on now. Anyway, so, and back then I had what I call a very backward ego balance. I was ultra shy. I didn't want anyone to know. I mean, one-on-one, I was okay, but 2, anyway, it was not easy for me, even though I was involved in sharing and teaching and stuff like that. Just anything spiritual was like too sacred to even talk about. And so being in John's presence was overwhelming for me because the guy is still to this day the most integrated human being in genius and all kinds of capability I've ever met, even to this day. So anyway, so he taught us this thing on getting ready called Health in the Human Mind, and talked about enzymes and all kinds of things. He did a form of iridology that way different than anyone else. He was changing all brown eyes blue. So was I, independent of working with him. And so not that I wanted to, it was just happening. And so we got to connect on that level. Anyway, so I'm just going to share with you a little about where we were back then and what to expect, and then being prepared and all that kind of stuff. So body electronics is a form of sustained acupressure. So in other words, when John would say, whenever there's an individual, when anyone goes against the law of love, and how many can relate going against the law of love? How many have ever been a little crabby or bitchy? Yes, just once or twice. I've read about it, okay? And even genetically. So John would say, whenever someone goes against the law of love, at that point, they suppress their life, and they go at that aspect of their life, and they go beyond the ability to remember. What I'm going to add to that is, and John would add a version of the same story, that whenever we resist and go against love, there's all the thought, word, and emotional patterns, thought, Trinity, thought, word, and emotional patterns, are encapsulated in a little computer-like crystal in the body. Remember, computers came out 83. I mean, for the masses, right? That's when we got our first computer. No, 86 when we got our first one. So in 83, so we really didn't know about operating systems. We didn't know necessarily about crystals having, you know, memory, that's, you know, all that kind of stuff. So as we progressed, we began to realize that the little crystal in the body that held the memory was a computer chip. And so the computer chip actually shows up in the eyes. Got it? Plus you can find it you can palpate it and find it in the body. If there's a little bit of pain there in your arm or wherever it is, there's memory there. So what John would say is, and I remember the first time he ever did this, the first instructor training, John is teaching, there's 60 people about in the room. Many are chiropractors, osteopaths, naturopaths, whatever else path. And he goes, now, he was 6'3" at the time, 300 pounds, big booming voice. He called himself a battering ram for the light. There wasn't anything subtle about him at all. And he goes, now, I want you all to listen to this. This is so technical. It's important you understand this. And everybody's like leaning forward, ready to write, whatever. He goes, you find the pain and push. And everybody's like waiting for the next shoe to drop. No, that's it. So in other words, you find the pain, and John would say, never give anybody any more than they can lovingly and willingly endure. And I would teach that for years, and I realized lovingly and willingly, oh, that's new. Okay. So what's in every one of our bodies is any genetic memories or experiences that could be combined of where we haven't fully loved yet. And that's a repeating pattern over and over and over again. These are little crystals sending out signal, come bug me again, come bug me again, come bug me again, come bug me again. How many have ever noticed that you thought you were over something? I will never do that again. And again. And again. How many have ever said, oh, I will never be like my mother, and had friends come over and say, you're just like your mother. That happened to me. I thought I was going to die. All right. So now I realize from body electronics and developing all these years that that's so accurate, that God somehow, the universe, whatever it is, stores in us all of our karma. So we carry it around wherever we go, so we can redeem our full light and our love. That's what this is about. So in other words, we do these sessions. The first session that everyone will do, you'll give approximately 5, you'll receive 1. It's called an endocrine session, which is the STO, pineal, pituitary, thyroid, solar plexus, heart, thymus. That's about it. And again, what will happen is in that session, literally, where nerve supplies, STO is right here, bring nerve supply back to the body. It's also right below the occipital ridge, parasympathetic, fight or flight. And so when we hold these points right here, I mean, I've seen people that had a child, actually, they had a gimp arm. It didn't do anything, didn't respond. Even before I actually ever held points, I witnessed a child get full mobility in her arm by just someone holding SDOs. I've seen so many miracles on this. It's like this is the deal. But there's way more than this. It's not just healing what's wrong. It's restoring something. It's letting our life force flow. So everyone will have a chance to do the SDOs. And I've had some people say, when do we get to the meta? Well, you're going to need to go through every one of the steps. No yawning, Cynthia. Just kidding. I can see everyone. It's so fun. In other words, the endocrine session gets you in the game. And Adam, how intense was your first endocrine? Can you remember it?
Yeah, as far as me holding points or me being on the table?
You holding.
I mean, it was, it's funny. So my very first time, and Bob will go into this more in depth, but sometimes some of us think that other points are going to be easier to hold. So we tend to navigate to what's going to be easiest. And my buddy, both our good friend, Brian Johnson, was the guy that I was holding points on. So I immediately went to his feet. There was a lady that was on his STOs, and Bob, comes around like he does and just had a switch. So I ended up holding Brian's STOs, and just even staying conscious and aware of finding the points. And even I choose to remember 10, 15 minutes into the session, I'm up here in Brian's cheekbones, and he looks at me and he's like, dude, I don't think you're really on the points anymore. And just being aware that my fingers had completely slid off of his STOs and I was somewhere up along his jawline. And it's just funny stuff. But that also goes to show where my awareness was, what I was willing to really engage in, being present, working on my own stuff. There's so many facets to this thing that it was really funny. And also just, I mean, it's amazing to see what all of us can go through and what we can handle, and there's always room for more.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember somebody was holding my points, my first session. And so, I've got so many comedies on this. I'm going to share some with you. So I'm laying there. I'm Mr. God realized, love God, and shy. And so John puts people on my points. You know, he walks up and hooks everybody up. And I have a lady on my big toe, which is my pineal point, and she's got my toe and she has a palsy. So she's holding my toe, going like this, going like this. And I'm like, my big toe, that's light, pineal, light, that's light in my body. That's light in my body. And I'm like, so I'm laying there, just fine, everything's fine. And people are sliding off the point, like heart point going under my shirt and ending up on my arm over here. Cause I'm serious. STOs are like creeping up here. People, it's intense when you first start out.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And the lady on the bottom of me, she's shaking hour, next 2 hours, next 3 hours. Oh yeah, the cranials back then, some of them were 36 hours long. The average was 7 hours. We're going to get them done. Adam, how quick?
Minutes. I mean, yep. Like I said, there's no time or rush or get through this quick, nope. But they happen in minutes. I mean, me and Brian, our last one we did in June of 2018, we timed it just because we could, just curious to see how it worked. You know, we've both done a lot of work, and he and I did each side of our face. We did it in like 3 minutes and 33 seconds.
And what that means is we're prepared to dissolve the memory into what it's meant to be, instead of slugging it out and helping everybody do what they haven't done any of. I mean, that's when John first started. He'd never had his own session. He didn't really know what he knew the system worked, but he never had his own session. No, I'm just grateful he did what he did. So anyway, I'm laying there and I'm resisting. That's all there is to it. All these people, I'm pushing them off my points. I mean, they're not being able to stand. I got somebody that's and passes out of my stomach and starts drooling on my shirt. And I'm like, John walks by and I'm like, come on, could you fix? No, come on, could you? I'm wanting him to come fix it. Long story short, after about 2.5 hours in, I realized he's not going to fix it. So then I realized, well, if that's the case, then I'm just going to love everybody. So in essence, I just sat and I started literally, now I know, holding their points. And so the person that had their hand under my shirt over here against my arm pit or whatever, pulls back over and goes to this point over here. The SDO person, you know, they're supposed to be right back here, kids. Got it? Kind of goes, I'm off the point. Yeah, you think. Anyway, love them. And they get back on this point over here. Then everybody else rearranged. Some people stopped throwing up, whatever was going on. It was intense back then. The lady with the palsy now, she's about 75, slight, stops palsying. I didn't even kind of notice it because I'm so involved in it. Oh man, this is really wrong. Just keep loving them. She rearranges her hand, and this bony little beautiful thumb adjusts itself and nails my pineal point perfectly. And I'm going, oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. She didn't move after that for another hour. And I started having light come through my body big time. That's when I began to realize, oh, I was resisting you. Yes, I do. And so all this time, what I'm sharing with you is we're going to make this fun and easy, only it's profound what returns. Yeah. So what I say about this, and jump in anytime, Adam, and anyone who's done it, what returns when we do this thing is it's the way to let light back in our body. So when we first start out, I mean, sometimes it's excruciating pain. Eventually it gets easier. Eventually it's love, it's light. I mean, what used to be just, big, huge men bawling, holding an STO point or holding a toe or holding a solar plexus. I mean, they're, like that. And they're big, and the women are going, what's wrong with you, buddy? I've given birth. And you're sitting there anyway. And because it's clearing, everybody clears out. Nobody can sit there faking it. You can't fake it on this one.
Nope.
I mean, I've had people laying there going, somebody's on their toe, and everybody is just sometimes the person on the table is usually going, could I have more? Could I have more? And everybody else that's holding points going, I wish I could, man. I have to get through my own stuff to even make contact. This is like electricity, electrical. So if somebody's off a little bit, it creates massive heat. But if they come in and make contact, then you're connect, then the heat moves into light and energy. So one person, choose remember, I guess it was a female, the one I'm thinking of right now. She was a female and she said, you're killing me, you're killing me. And the person is sitting there, guy on the toe, and he's just resting his thumb on her toe, resting it, just resting it like this, just like that. And finally, they sat her up enough so she could look down, and he's sitting there going, hello, other hand's plugged in, but I'm just holding it. There's a connection, and it was about enthusiasm. And somehow the point they hooked up, she had to go, all right, it's my stuff. She laid back down, was able to love and restore enthusiasm. So the thing about this particular class, I'm going to jump around a little bit. In most classes we coach, when have you felt this way before? What's your outcome? You don't do any of that really in this class. So to set it up is the most labor intensive of all my classes. Yet it takes the least amount of facilitation other than breathe, hold your body still. Where are you? What's happening? When have you felt this way before? Relive it. That's about, in general, what we do. Do a lot of outcome mapping. We do a lot of reversal. I recommend any of you bring your oils because, again, we're gonna be anointing, really, if you have that understanding. We're gonna restore, come back in and let our spirit get fully activated to what I call our anointed self. And I mean, it's profound. It's absolutely profound what's in us. We have a white fire being self. And if you would ask me before I held points, I was Mr. We do energy work and oh yeah, and I do acupressure and yeah, I'm completely hooked up. I know everything. I talk about heat. Oh yeah, I've been there. I didn't have a clue. I did not have one clue, not one. So I'm sitting there, we're holding points after class on health, human mind, no body electronics, that class. John said, don't hold points. We're all going, yeah, right. So we hold points till 3 or 4 in the morning. So I'm holding my first points, 2 points, one on the side and one on the hip. And I'm plugged in and they kind of know what they're doing. And I'm a rookie. I don't have a clue. I'm sitting there for an hour, hour and a half, kind of boring, really boring. And all of a sudden, zoom! And what was that? I'm like, oh, hello, what? And they'll go, yeah, I think it's starting now. I'm going, what that? I'm inside, aruga, dial, aruga. I mean, seriously, I was like, oh my God, what was that? What was that? It was electrical. It's like, how many of you ever touched a wire that wasn't grounded? It had electricity. How many of you ever done that going, don't ever pee on those. But anyway, we weren't peeing, it was okay. So they're like normal because they've done it before. And I'm like, I have no freaking clue what that was. So I'm geared up. Then my fingers got hot, electrical. And then they got hotter. Then they got hotter. Then they got hotter. I had to rearrange. I had to put everything I had into staying hooked up. And nobody ever lets go. It's really cool. And then I did it again. And finally, I said, Jesus, all right, my hands are God's hands. And I didn't say that to anybody, but I saw my Christ self come over and lay his hands over mine so I could stay on that and keep loving. I mean, it was the rock and roll show of my life. And that was just the beginning. Got it? That's the amount of sacred love of the sacred fire that's in every one of us that we're going to get really good with. So way back then, again, these things took a long time, clear. And I believe we were creating an environment like the quantum physics and 100th monkey and morphogenetic fields where we're able to walk around with light. So what you will experience, even though you'll have your own experiences, whatever they may be, and who knows that you have yours, is I choose to make this fun and easy. My hands are God's hands. We prepare. John Ray would teach us how to nutritionally prepare, and I actually did it. And John, his wife calls me, Eleanor calls me and says, after like the 3rd series of instructor trainings, she goes, Bob, he's finally drinking minerals. And I'm going, great. She says, no, not that great. He's mixing them in blackberry brandy. I'm like, John, that's not the point. Anyway, so we do raw food. We do sprouts. I was strict vegetarian, straight, fresh and raw, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, what I'm sharing with you is our body electronics has an endocrine session, bring nerve supply back to the body. Then we do a bladder lift where it's just a little pulling up of the bladder back into where it needs to be. And I mean, somebody was going to go right after a Meta BE to get a surgical, bladder lift, didn't need to. How many are excited about having your bladder back up in your cheeks? I mean, wherever it needs to be. Yes. Yeah. So we pull that into place, and then we do colon electronics. I came up with this one. Acupressure, fully clothed. People go, do you have your clothes on? Yes. If you don't have your clothes on, I'm not there. So it's fully clothed and like no nylons, have natural clothing and all that stuff. We're completely appropriate. John would say lovingly and willingly endure. And most people grunted through every session. You don't get to grunt through any sessions with me. Either you're loving it or we back off. Do you see how much easier it is? Instead of like, no, just breathe. All right. A little more. That's good. A little bit more. That's good. Oh, that's fine right there. We get a point where the person is at parasympathetic as much as possible and can bring memory back to the surface to be touched and loved, breathed into, feel. I love a touch of breathe. I stay, and I feel. And I didn't have any of that back then when I'm working with John, even for decades after I didn't have all that. So we have it. So again, we do endocrine, and then we do bladder lift, then we colon electronics, and the colon reshapes. I remember I had a picture of my eyes, and also when I was 20, whatever, something, I was camping with my girlfriend. There was an issue with my girlfriend. I didn't know it was emotional. And I ended up having diarrhea for 3 weeks on the camping trip in Canada. How many know camping and diarrhea don't go together very well? And it was relationship stuff. I didn't know that. And so I finally went in the hospital. And so they filled me full of kaopectate and parapectilin, and which is they're all opiates and whatever, dried out my colon. So I went back home thinking I was healed. No. And then 2 days later, I went in with kidney stones. So my kidneys were already blocked. Kidneys are partnership and forgiveness. Got it. And so and then I got to move my kidney stone, which is really exciting. I made it into a ring and I wear it now. Just kidding. I don't do that. Anyway, and that's when I realized they don't have a clue. Medicine, that at least the people I work with, they didn't have a clue. All this would have shown up in my eyes. Got it? All of this would have shown up in my eyes. So that's when I went, I'm not going that direction, because they suppressed the state and then it got worse. All right. So anyway, long story short. So the system, got it, of endocrine, nerve supply, memory. Many people will get their whole life out of just holding a point in an endocrine session. Literally somebody will go through, I'll give you an example. We were in, where was it? Denver, Colorado. And I did a class with 110 people. And I offered, it was helping you in mind. That's it. And I offered, this is back when I'm 27 years old. I offered, Leroy Ruck and I offered to do a body electronics for some volunteers the Monday after the class, one day of body electronics to show everyone. We had 98 people show up. They said they were going to have it at a fire hall, when we used to rent those all the time in our communities, our little townships and whatever. This was downtown Denver, whatever the town is, Thorn, whatever it's called, next to it. And it's on the 3rd floor of the fire department, which is about 20,000 square feet per floor. And all the firemen stood all the way around, all 98 of us, watching us. And the police station, which is right next door, came over to watch all the weirdos as well. I'm going to get that. So this is like, we almost turned around. Leroy, I said, let's just go, man. I can't do this with all these people. This is not what anyway, we did it. So somebody's holding 2 points on the back of the neck, the whole endocrine session. That's what we're doing. And we're sitting there, they're walking around, we're coaching. There's a lot of tables, if you can imagine, 20 some, whatever it was. And if you can imagine 2 people who know what they're doing, managing that many people who have never done anything before. And everybody started drinking minerals during the class, which that's interesting, straight minerals and green fog. And it was very fascinating. So we walk by, and anything that's going on, we just kind of go over there. And this one person started, oh my God, his arms start heating up. And he said, this energy came up, it came up his arms, came up his arms, came up his arm, came up his arms, and went into his neck. And we hear like that. And everybody's like, okay, what was that? I don't know. And he goes, look. And he starts turning his head. And I was going, just don't turn all the way around. Just don't go all the way around. I mean, The Exorcist was just out. I don't really need to see you pea soup it anyway. But he goes, no, he says, look. And I'm going, yeah, that's pretty nice. He goes, no, my neck has been surgically fused. And now he's got full mobility of his neck. This is just some examples of what happens. How many excited now?
Yes.
How many glad his head didn't go all the way around, so I didn't have to tell you that? I'm really glad. All right. So that's that. So anyway, so over and over and over, and now I'm going, all right, the reason I'm doing it now, and I'll just share it that way, is body electronics and meta body electronics is my way to clear the decks. Got it? So all these crystals in the body, so the endoconcession nerve supply gets pineal, pituitary, thyroid, parathyroid. Solar plexus is adrenals and pancreas. It's also a major center for feeling. Heart, thymus, so that'd be love and confidence. And again, moving from fight or flight into ease, and parasympathetic right here in the neck. That's about it for now. And medulla, again, that's parasympathetic. After that session, bladder lift, pull all the organs that have been prolapsed from lack of enthusiasm and breathing back into position, then reshaped. I was going to say about the colon. When I saw my barium enema, when I had the diarrhea for whatever, they showed me a picture of my barium photo, right? And it went, and my ascending went up and loop down around. And I've seen the drawing of colons before, and it didn't have a racetrack on it. It had, up and over and down. And mine went up and all around. And they go, that looks pretty normal. I'm going, nothing about that's normal. So I knew that I'm going to reshape, because I tried to crawl. Crawling is about autonomic nervous system. And I get trained, and then I go on fingertips and tips of my toes with Margot and Shirley that taught us the kids learn from the inside out, all about the natural nature of crawling. So I said, all right, team, acupressure, small intestine around my navel, large intestine. And my colon reshaped itself, and I was able to naturally crawl. I didn't have to think about anything anymore. I was in my body. I mean, like it. That's just one step of what we're going to do. So we do. And Laura, go ahead. No, you're just agreeing with that?
Yes, I like it.
Okay. Thank you, dear. I thought you had a question. So anyway, we do colon electronics, which is, again, first, second, and third trimester. I'm giving a little bit of all this. First, second, third trimester. First trimester, second trimester, and third trimester. How many know mom might have had something up, finding out she's pregnant, first trimester, getting ready, and I'm at home, can I do this, and whatever, and third trimester, and then the moment of birth, bonding, and fusion. That creates our blueprint for the start point of our life. And that is the autonomic nervous system, which is the large and small intestine. So we go in there and restore, take any crystals out of that. Boom. Then we do spinal electronics and then cranial electronics. Spinal electronics is thumbs or elbows on little bone spurs or whatever in the spine. And let's talk about bone spurs, Adam.
Yes.
Did you ever get a big lumpy dump that there was a bone that dissolved?
Yeah. I mean, I choose to remember who the two gentlemen were, but there was two gentlemen in two different classes that had golf ball sized things on the base of their neck. The top of their neck, no, bottom of the neck, but just right above the, whatever vertebrae it is, maybe around C5, 7.
Oh, so was it below the skull or at the 7th cervical, 1st thoracic?
Yeah, about the 7th cervical.
Okay.
But I mean, huge. I mean, it looked. Go ahead.
Go with your hand. How big was it?
I mean, bigger than a golf ball and a half size thing that looked like normal structure stuff. Maybe had something up with the structure, but as we began holding his point, it's amazing. Completely dissolved into normal structure of what a cervical should look like. I mean, we just thought that was how he was born, just part of his structure. And it wasn't. It was all a belief about, whatever that was for him.
Yep. Awesome. And the first time it ever happened for me, somebody had a golf ball size right underneath the occipital protuberance. So if you can feel the back of your skull and then it supposedly drops in. Well, this person I did too. I had one like that. I'll say the dowager thing right here. But I mean, I'm working on it with a thumb, and nobody's going to tell me that so I'm holding, and again, this is hours, and my thumb is numb, my arm is numb, and all of a sudden, here, if you can see my face, that's calcium, which is thought, word, and feeling. It's a crystal. Got it? And as I'm holding that, I start going, oh, and it just went away, and everybody's looking at me going, oh, I was speaking in babble. No, whatever. It just dissolved like butter. I mean, it is so cool. The same thing happened when somebody held my points. It just eventually goes like butter. Well, now, how long does it take to have that stuff dissolve now?
I mean, minutes as well. Once the body's warmed up and we start at the base of the, up here by the skull, once the body's heated up and prepped, and I mean, it takes minutes. It is so amazing. Just as we go down along the spine, how many seconds it literally takes to dissolve all these crystals. I mean, it really is like our thumbs are the microwave, so to speak, and just putting it in and it melting. Like Bob said, Bob already did a good job of educating and prepping us, so we didn't have quite the and it's just like the smiles and the gleam in our eyes of like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Just, I mean, having crystals dissolve all up and down the spine. I mean, it's fantastic.
And literally, it seems like it's a bone. So we're not going to dissolve bone. We're going to dissolve, and if it's structural like that, it's resentment and anger. Got it? That's what it is. And so making contact, got it? And loving, we're touching with love, and now my hands are God's hands. We're no more than that person can lovingly and willingly endure, and everybody loves, everybody breathes, vote victory, see perfection, everybody's outcome mapping. So we're not going in to get that person to resolve. We're going in there to free that person into their full potential. They've already started it. I mean, even the words I can, I am, I will, I choose, I have, I love, I create, I enjoy are profound in moving the needle into who we really are. So that's that. So when we do the spinal, and again, the spinal's, used to take, I don't know, 5 hours, 7 hours, and it would be, grunt, 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 grunt. And now it's like, no, you make contact, the person, anybody having their points held, they're in charge.
Yep.
Nobody does anything to them, they're in charge. And usually it's a little bit more. And when we work like that, in other words, we just touch it with love, and love wins. Love dissolves it. And so that thought, word, and feeling pattern of the memory, we go against the law of love, we suppress our life, we go beyond the ability to remember, goes into our subconscious. And I'm never supported. I can't cancel. I can, or they always, whatever the statement is, they relive it when it starts dissolving with love, and they are freed from that moment forward back into their divine blueprint. And this is a real thing, kids. I mean, for me to be doing it 50 years later, whatever, it's like, yep, it's something I choose to gift all of my team with. So you can let light be in your body and light up everyone in your world. That's what it's about. That's what we can do. So after the spinal electronics, then we do cranial electronics. So way back, the first cranials were excruciating because we were burning off all the karma. So it's in the mouth, straight in, back into this, right back in here. And, you sit there and you get your finger just right. And you have an observer and a person receiving and a person giving, and then you swap out. 3 people work together on that. The spinal, we usually have about 4 or 5 work together. So on the cranial, in the beginning, I measured. I have a caliper. We can do that again if you choose. But we put a little permanent marker here on the chin, close the jaw, and a permanent marker on the fontanelle. We measure that and put it on paper. And then for the first 100 people we did this with, I used to do this all the time, so it was easy in large classes. 50, 60 people, you can get to 100 pretty easy. The average increase from a cranial, the average increase from here to there was 1 inch. That's mental ceiling. That's creativity. And then the average increase temple to temple, Charlie Brown. The average increase is 1/2 inch. That's ego confidence. How many get, so driving home from my first cranial, I was driving my little Nissan truck all the way back from Manitowish Waters to Kalamazoo, Michigan. And I was like, I feel like I have a football field of creativity. OMG. I didn't have that word back then, but my God, this is what the fantastic. And I'd be driving along and it was so overwhelming to me, my creative something connection that I kept taking my hands off the wheel like I had a football and going, God, that's too big for me. And I'd throw it up, really. And then it come back and it'd be bigger. I mean, it's as if going, no, you're going to get, oh, no. Literally, it was like, I did that probably 15 miles. And finally I realized, oh, my job is to hand out little footballs everywhere I go. And so I've been handing out little footballs everywhere I go. I'm making sure that everyone gets their full embodied anointed self online. That's what this is about. So that's that. So after the cranial, and again, instead of 36 hours, 7 to 36 hours, I'm going to share this with you. I've shared a lot, but it's just so cool. So I did Eleanor Ray's cranial first after a class. She asked me, and so a whole bunch of people stayed after class. John was there. He's my mentor, and I'm Mr. Shy. And so he's holding a point on the hand. He's sitting down. All these other people are helping with different points, but I'm doing the cranial because she asked me to. It's like, okay, because my cranial was so cosmic, so freaking cosmic, and everybody was bawling because all this. Whew, I'm gonna cry. God bless. So cosmic, so cosmic. I mean, I saw my I am face to face. I saw my own I am self face to face. Everybody in the room that could hear me was going, because it was real. I call that a full-blown Christed experience. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So she heard that, said, Bob, would you do my cranial? Yes. So I'm in her mouth. And again, this takes forever to go all the way back in because we didn't know about preparing the soil like back then. And so anyway, I'm staying with it all the way back in. Her skull opens up. My fingers go all the way back into this little spot inside of her skull, and it cools and throbs. We're done. So we use olive oil in the mouth so it doesn't stick. It doesn't burn and stick because your finger is hot. So so the person in all the way in here would be stuck to the mucosa. So you have to turn your finger slowly and turn it. So you have to get their mouth all juiced up, and then eventually the finger would come out. So my finger's coming out. And I'm standing up, she's laying down, everybody's all around, John's over here. And I go, I look down and I see something. I go, John, he said all the color went out of my face, like something not good has happened. And so he stands up and looks down and starts, oh. I'm going, this is not laughing. I am not laughing. This is not funny. Her tooth stuck to my finger. It was welded to my finger. And it was actually a cap over one of her teeth over here. So it dissolved all the glue, got it? And now that looked like tooth, which was the shape of a tooth, was stuck to my finger. And he thought he'd laugh about that. So I got him back, not really. When I did his cranial a couple of classes later, it was after class, all my people I brought were waiting for me outside, and I'm in his basement and his office. You've got a walkout basement, and his office is in there. And he's set up for me, and I'm in there, and I do his one side, which is all he was asking me to do at that point, because you do one side, then the other. And so, I mean, it was intense. It was intense for him. It was intense. It was intense. A lot of memory. Ooh. Anyway, he gets done. He walks me out. He thanks me profusely, and we drive on. I go back to Kalamazoo with my team. And there's not a voicemail, there's a recorded message on a machine, because we didn't have voicemail back in the 1800s when I did this. And he said, Bob, this is John Ray, call me. I had to go to the hospital. I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? So this is just reporting news. He grew 3 inches from one cranial. So he went from 6'3" to 6'6". And he walked back through his basement offices, past the massage table, a steel I-beam, and now he didn't clear it. It hit him right here and knocked him out, and he had to go get 14 stitches in his forehead. And I mean, that's holding points right here. He grew 3 inches. How many excited now? I've had little short people go, oh, I'd like to grow. How do I grow? How do I do that? Anyway, so that's that. So after the cranial is all about consciousness. Everything's all about consciousness. But in our cranium, I teach about the sphenoid, there's this bone inside that articulates to all the other bones in the skull. It's amazing. If you get a chance, go online and look up sphenoid and look at all the different shapes of it. It looks like an angel, everything, an angel wing. It's amazing. And that articulates or connects to most, if not all, of the primary bones of the skull. And that's what we actually make contact with. And it reshapes, the skull reshapes. Without adjusting it, it just goes back to divine memory. And again, for me, it was like I had a football field of creativity. And still to this day. So I'm just sharing with you. It's like, wow. Then what we do is we use the iPhotos. Everybody gets an iPhoto when they come. We use the iPhoto to design everyone's meta session. So we usually have about, if not exactly 12 people, an important number. If we can, 12, 24, 36, 48, 48 is our maximum for this group. And we have 12 people who agree to come together and stay and work together. This is the most potentially spiritual event anyone's ever had. And what I learned is, let's say if we do a few points here, a few points there, that some crystallized pattern or memory or thought form can make it through the session. So just to keep it long story short, because I'll go into much greater detail on this, when the eye will show all the points that get to be held. So with 11 people holding points, that's about 22 points that we can hold on someone. And we design it according to what the eye says. And what happens is the individual in the session, it usually is pretty quick now. I mean, it's amazingly quick. Not like hurry, just we're ready. But that we did all the crystals with ease just dissolve. And that person is basically rebooted to their divine blueprint. And anything, I only learned about this after years after it happened to me. 2 classes, held my points, 30 people on one, 25 on the other, all holding my points. And everything I had built prior to that class dissolved, within months right after the class, twice. Anything that's not built on love is not eternal. It's not going to last. I'm going to get that.
That's right.
And so for me, I didn't know that. I only know it when I reviewed and went, hey, that's what we need to do with everybody. That would be a blessing. Only we're going to tell them that you're going to reboot to perfection and then start building only according to what's pure and wonderful and lovely and all that. So Brian Johnson talks about that. He went back home. Do you remember anything he had shared on that, Adam, once he went home?
I mean, not in details, but basically, I mean, his experience is similar to mine. Is just relationships just went away, things that he didn't really fully understand, friendships that he thought were real friendships, just things that wasn't of his highest choice anyway, that wasn't really serving him, but because of codependently, or he believed he had to, him and I both believe that we had to engage in those things for whatever reason to make us a good person. Like all that stuff went away. And without, you being able to share that with us, like for your first time, we wouldn't even had a clue what that means. And we might've panicked, but to understand, and this is really important, y'all. So anyone listening to the recording or anyone that's on tonight, this is super important as far as, like Bob just said, like anything built on less than love, it's going to dissolve. I mean, it's just going to be a fact. It will no longer exist. There may be a tendency to go chase that thing anyway, it's not to your highest and best good. So just know that anything that needs to be resolved and dissolved, it will be. So it's what do you do with it now? And that's why we incorporate outcome mapping. And we ask the questions as far as using our imagination. It's like, what are you going to do now that you're brand new and you can create whatever you choose?
Amen. That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, and again, I didn't know any of that when I did. And when I didn't get it right away forever, it seems, to cancel that. And when I finally went, oh, that's what happened. That's what happened. They hooked up, you can imagine 30 people holding my points. It was intense for them. That's always, anybody that holds my points, it's intense. That's what I can tell you. Just get your tent out because it's going to be in a tent. All right. So again, we're using imagination. We're using outcome mapping. We're using what does this turn into? So all the entire 10 days, 2 days are all for you, 8 days are meta BE. All of it is about upgrade, choose, recommit, discover, imagine, claim your new self, your next new self, your next new self, all of that, so that we metamorph right into who we really are, embodied in us. And we have the amount of life force happening now. I mean, again, my description is, it's how I let God back into my body.
Yeah.
It's really, and now it's easy. I mean, Adam, when he holds points, when I hold points, it'll just be, oh yeah, oh yeah, it's warm, yeah, crack, crack. But we're moving the energy. We're one with the energy. It's an amazing thing. So the meta session is 12 people voting victory, seeing perfection, coming in highly trained. So imagine doing an endocrine after bladder lift, colon electronics, spinal electronics, cranial. You get really good at how to hold the point. I'm making contact bone to bone, staying really sharp on that point. And it just, once you realize, oh, that whatever's there, you just hold it and it'll dissolve, whether it's soft tissue, whether it's hard tissue, whether it's crystallized, whatever it is. And we see most people, maybe everyone, sees so many miracles, they become miracle oriented.
Yeah.
And they become a witness, so to speak, to truth and miracles and light embodied, and somebody walking in and then just love, breathe, and everybody voting victory. Like, everyone won't just work on someone. They'll be experiencing their version of moving upscale while they're helping someone else. So the sharing is rich, glorious, sacred. I mean, I call it debriefing. After a session, we share. After a session, we share. By the way, it looks like we're going to have a simultaneous class in Australia, Mullumbimby, Australia, and Dave and Ange Bombeck will be guiding the point locations, and Ia is going to be having a group of 12 people in her home, staying right there and modeling exactly the same time we're doing it. They're going to do it, all that kind of stuff. So,
Awesome.
I mean, how cool is that? I mean, anyway, so that's that. So this is of the highest order. And I do this thing because, first, my heart says to. Second, my spirit says to. Third, it's fun. Fourth, eye color change. Oh, like Adam, he shared the other night, those that were on, they had pictures of his eyes going from the before and after, completely straight, blue, radiant. And that was just an endocrine session.
Yeah.
So, and again, what this means to me is this is not an outside in job. Anyone holding points is providing a mirror for you to let your love in any form into who you are. And the person on the table, again, as I said, is in charge. Really, I really stand by that. Everybody's got to be voting victory and seeing perfection. That's just required. Anyway, so what we got, the February 25th and 26th is an all for you. I'm asking everyone to do an all for you, our new all for you accelerator 2 with our team before you come. And we have January 18th. Is it?
Yes.
Is it January 18th? Are you laughing at me, Cynthia? Are you? January, I don't know.
March? Really? March?
I know. March 16th is when we start LUC. But anyway,
Yes.
So January, Helena was good at all that stuff. Anyway, January 18th, we have another one starting, so you'll be able to get into most of it by then. Yeah, it'd be done, right? Wouldn't your next all for you be done, complete? 7 sessions, yes-ish?
It's done the night before ours. Our Tuesday night second one is done the night before we travel. Yes.
Okay, great. So in other words, and the reason why that all for you is different than the one we're going to have on site is the accelerator 2 is going through all the important, like, freedom process, like outcome mapping, much deeper dive to understand, because the tools are really important. To have this thing be elegant and easy and fun, it's just really important. Then when we come, we do 2 days of all for you relative to body electronics. And just really, I have everybody just completely geared up. Once somebody registers, you receive as a complimentary, the body electronics facilitator training. So you can see how to find all the points, what the setup's like, all that. And most people get okay. Oh, it's not, in other words, you get to see how it works. And so that is something you get, and please study it before you come, because that'll get you understanding what we're doing in a much bigger way. No yawning, Christy. Christy, no yawning. Just kidding.
Bob, does
Go
that
ahead.
get mailed out? Because we've registered several months ago, and I choose to know if
It
we
should
have
be in your
received
portal.
my portal. I'll check. Thank you.
Yeah. And no matter what, request it. CTO, Chief Technology Officer at mastersystem.com. And anyone that registers, many people have studied it already, so I choose to know, but find it. If not, request it from Maggie and she'll get it right to you. It should be in there. And no matter what, you got plenty of time. It'll really help everyone understand what's happening. So let's open it up to questions or comments. Who else?
I have a question.
Okay.
Spinal. My husband is missing some body parts and has some other body parts put in his spine.
So
How
what we
does
do is
that
all we
work?
do is we work near it.
Okay.
So tell me be technical on it.
Okay, he has cages, 5 cages, 5 cervical removed and cages put in its place.
Okay, so that all we do is we don't touch any of that area. So
Okay.
one thing we do, and here's the little trick here. So the first class we had a friend of mine owned a castle in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and John Ray came and did a body electronics class in that castle. So we had 110 people in that one. And a person had stainless steel Harrington rods surgically inserted in the spine, clips. And they went back after there. It was a really hot, intense spinal, different than but it went to his chiropractor and there are no more, the clips were there, the stainless steel Harrington rods were not. The guy took about 5 x-rays. I mean, I'm just reporting the news.
Wow.
So, I mean, 5 x-rays and I can see the clips, but there's no, so he sent him to an osteopath, said, no stainless. Okay, so who knows what lurks in the, we have a divine blueprint and we always honor the person. We don't get, whatever, if anybody's got anything going on, we just have to know that ahead of time. And, one thing, if we're going to hold somebody's spine or do spinal, we can work on the foot to do exactly the same thing.
Yes.
Okay. From the big toe to the heel, we can work that whole spine right there. I mean, it's that the beauty of the body is like if you take a cat and step on its tail, it opens its mouth.
Okay.
And if you're going, okay. So
I don't have a cat, so okay.
There's a reflex there.
Okay.
And so right in the ears, the whole body. I'm going to get that. That's what we call it, ear
Yes.
etology. No, just kidding. Anyway, so that's how we work that. We just don't mess with it. Good.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome, Andrea.
Have you ever had a case where an individual?
Your connection froze up.
Have you ever had anyone regrow an organ or body part?
So yeah, I don't even like to talk about all that stuff. So overnight, tonsils coming back. But that's kind of pretty easy. Women 62, 3, that used to be really old for me, and now that's really young for me. But back then it was old lady, which now is younger than I am now. 2 women got pregnant at over 60.
Well, I'm decreeing and declaring that I could be your first gallbladder.
Yeah. So again, what I know, so I can't answer that question. All I know is we're restoring the divine blueprint, like liver. Let's talk about liver, similar. So, this is way back, my study. I don't even like working with people. No, that's not true. I love working with people that are healthy. That's one of my rules. And in the past, I worked with everybody that was sick and dying. I mean, that's just kind of how I started out, going, I need to save the planet or whatever. So somebody would come in and they have 1/3 of their liver back. Well, that regrows really fast. The liver is, I mean, come on now. It's like it produces, it's one of the most regenerative organs in the body is the liver. So, and the gallbladder is right there. So gallbladder is only resentment. That's all it is. So I forgive for no reason, Andrea. You can mic yourself. And when did your gallbladder take off?
I would say
How'd she do?
years ago.
Prompt, like probably. You did great, honey. I only saw I mean, how many, oh, you're taking a class on language. Yes. Go ahead, honey. Forgive me. When
I
did it?
would say 10 years ago.
All right. So 10 years ago, whatever resentment was going on, just start forgiving it now.
Amen. I forgive. I forgive. I forgive. I recently said to myself, and said it out loud, wow, when this wake up, everybody wakes up. I was thinking in my head that I had forgiveness was easy. Like, I'm not going to have a problem with that when people start coming in or whatever. I've already done that part, not knowing any of this.
Yep. Well, maybe it's ongoing forever. I'm going to get that.
A forgiveness.
And even love is forgiving and giving and giving. So
Yes.
really we begin to become a sun presence, really. So what I say is, yeah, everyone has a divine electronics, divine blueprint of the body. So let's say if somebody has thyroid taken out, something else, the cells of the body will produce thyroxine or whatever it needs to. I mean, how many get that the body will, if we agree, I reclaim my authority, thyroid, I forgive for no reason, I author my world. This is my book coming out, really helpful. Do you get that? All right, anything that we require, all the cells of my body can produce that.
Hallelujah, I believe it.
Yes, ma'am. Awesome. All right, who else? Comments, questions? Yes, Pamela.
When you do the cranial, would that help to restructure my face that was smashed in from a car accident?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, honey. So, Adam, let's just talk about the palate. So, yeah, go ahead.
It's super wild. Meaning, I mean, just all of you right now too. Put your tongue up to the roof of your mouth, and just notice, or even put your
hard palate.
Or put your finger up there. Just notice, like, is it soft? Is it hard? Just notice how much space there is. Now imagine it raising an inch or possibly more when we sweep the palate from the inside of, the one side of the teeth to the other side of the teeth. And just imagine the amount of taste you're going to have back, the amount of smell, the amount of just creativity that Bob talks about, the football field of imagination and creation. It's just amazing how much it really moves, and just what we've told ourselves over the years to even have it crystallize or have even our palate sink to that level. I mean, it's amazing what we're missing out on, unless, what you don't know, you don't know. But it's amazing what can be restored and what is restored.
I mean, think about the guy with the fused neck, surgically fused, and that just freed up. And it was a type where I guess they cut it and put bone chip in and glue it. So, he had to turn like this. And here it's like, all right. So I'm not sure, no guarantee. All I can say is let's restore a divine blueprint, trust in your divine self to do the deal. And I recommend nobody goes in to get something to move. I recommend everybody just stays fully present and let that energy go. It goes wherever it needs to go. Yes. Once everybody experiences it, it is, if somebody's got something up, it's going to go find it. And again, sacred love with a sacred fire.
So if stuff changes, is there a possibility that it goes back? Because I've taken like flower essence before my face started to heal and change, but then it went back.
So here I'm going to share flower essence, like Bach and all the others.
Yeah.
1/1,000,000th of what we're doing, in my estimation.
Okay. No, I can clearly see that. I was just using it as
so again, because you didn't correct the issue.
Okay.
And Pamela, like, that's a key for you to understand as well. If you're even having doubts about something, that can creep in, and your doubt can wipe out everything that you worked for, everything that was progressed, everything that you would obtain in your session.
Hey, you're locking up, dude.
Do you even have any of that, or entertain any doubt, like that doubt? Oh, I apologize. How am I now? Can you hear me?
But it was just funny. We're hearing, it's funny. all y'all, I'm voting everyone's victory on solid connections for the internet. Yes. So
Yes.
again, I recommend what we do is once somebody it goes through a few sessions, they're restoring, not trying to fix what's wrong. So the mind would ask that question. I can jump into sound wise. In other words, doubt. Well, I'm going to tell you this one. All right. This is before people knew about conscious language and all that. So one of the people that dissolved stainless steel Harrington rods, and same kind of deal, same story. This is like the third person that did it. Nobody was planning it. It just happened. It wasn't even working on his spine. It just energy went to his spine. Gone. Clip's still there. He kept saying, cancel clear. You're not going to believe this. You won't believe this. You can't believe it. I just don't believe it. He would say that like 50 times. And he went back to the doctor, and the stainless steel Harrington rods came back. Okay. How many go? They didn't have conscious language back then. Instead of thank you, he kept saying, cancel clear. I don't believe it. Cancel, you won't believe it. You won't ever say, I believe it.
I
I
believe
believe
it.
it.
So this is where, thank you and move forward. Thank you and move forward. What an education. I'll tell you another one. So a young man had a tree fall on him. His dad was cutting a tree down and it landed on his upper back. And so he was paralyzed from chest down. And this is when I used to do body electronics right after I learned it. 6 nights a week for 6 months. I did BE with groups of people every night in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And we had a whole team who would come and help. And I did it because I was learning the secrets of the universe. And this young man who had no feeling, none in his thing, after the 3rd session, he was able to start moving his feet. And if I walked around the table, he's laying looking up. And if I touched his foot, he said, I felt that. We ended up looking for another place to do BE for his next session, his 4th one or whatever it was. It ended up being at his home. His dad sat in the corner smoking a cigarette. And that young man, because his dad was there, I guess, it was my error, excruciating as it is, didn't admit or say or seemingly believe that he ever had any movement at all. And it's because we didn't create an environment where it was safe enough for him to come all the way online. Plus, I didn't have conscious language, didn't have any of that stuff. I just had the body electronics technique. So how many get this is way, that's why the all for you is, that's why I'm doing 2 days of all for you, all for the understanding of what body electronics is all about. So everyone is in the game about I am that I am. I'm fully here. Again, that's important. So again, I recommend all of you cast your doubt out or replace it with trust. I trust.
Oh, so trust would be the replacement.
Yeah, I trust. I trust. And then there's a remedy called I trust, which is also very good for that. And again, it's like, when you reshape, like the palette, when it goes up in place, we sweep it. It's just a simple movement of the thumb up and down. And people touch up there and go, okay. And then we sweep the palette and they put their tongue up. And some people, it's like 5 miles up. They're going, oh my gosh, whoa. How many are excited about having more creative, your palette of creativity? Hello. Who else? Molly, go ahead.
So in the All For You and Sacred Body Language, when you're working on whatever translation you're trying to do, other people in your family are affected also. Does this work the same way?
Body, especially the same way.
Okay, good.
Even way more mondo bigger. Yes.
Yeah, big time, big time, big time.
Without effort. You figure it's DNA. We're reshaping DNA. That's all there is to it, or cleaning it or whatever. I choose the word. So, yep, yes. And again, my dad, Native American, my sister took after my dad, black hair, black, brown eyes for my dad, dark brown hair, black, brown eyes for my sister. My sister was 2.5 years my senior. By my age of 26, doing this stuff full time, got it as my mission in life, they had to get their driver's license changed the same year to blue eyes. Not light brown, blue eyes. And I'm Scandinavian after my mom. So I recommend everyone love on your family and do a lot of outcome mapping of how well they're doing now that you're moving upscale. Amy, you had something? No, yes, Amy, did you? Amy? No, okay, cool. Who else? Christy, go ahead.
I hear a lot about bone changing. What about soft tissue like labrums and cartilage? Does it?
Yep, all that. If it's part of your divine electronics, it does cool stuff.
Cool.
And the heat will go there, and it's awesome. Do you have cartilage in your body?
Yes.
Cool.
Okay, I have a question, Bob.
Okay, go ahead, Gwen.
Um, when we're doing body electronics, do you look in somebody's eyes and you're like, okay, their kidneys, let's work on
That's for the
kidney.
meta session. And we map out the entire meta session, and then we're done looking at, and we use the eye photos for that.
Uh-huh.
And then, you know, they're a team. We have enough people that can do, you know, figure out our kidney, we draw it out, and then we figure out where the best point locations are, because that's part of what I'm teaching people how to do. And so when that person's meta session comes, the blueprint of what points are going to be held are already figured out. Go ahead, though.
Okay, so I understand all that. My question is, so are other things going to be shifted besides just your kidneys right then, or are everybody's points on kidney points?
No. Only one person works on whatever their point location. So again, it could be thyroid, thymus, medulla, heart, colon, pancreas and adrenal, parathyroid, 3 or 4 heart points, heart firing mechanism. In other words, like for me, I can run an entire body electronic session from the pineal.
Okay. All right. I got one more question. All right. If there is Adam was talking about that golf ball and a half size thing. When you're working on that, do you touch that thing, or you're touching something else that caused that thing?
You make contact with it and elicit the memory that's in it. And you can be having something dissolve out of your body without making contact, because we're working with one electrical system. So, I mean, so many people have had so many things happen, and the first endocrine session, the energy, like the person that actually, that was it. The person that did the neck thing, he wasn't having his points held. Mm-hmm. He was holding the STOs, and that energy traveled up. And when it hit his neck, first the sound, if you can imagine hearing, can't quite do it, but it was like that. And everybody's looking around, what's that? What's that? What's that? The firemen are going, is that a fire? The police are going, is that a gun? And we're going, holy crap, I don't know. And then, he moved his head. So this is where, if you can imagine grace moving through the body, doing whatever it needs to do, according to what's divine for that person.
Okay, well then maybe I do have another question. Okay, here's my next question. This whole configuration of people, is this whole thing executed, ignited because of love coming and going from these people? Is that what is causing this?
Well, I'm going to ask it a little bit different.
Okay.
So when we make contact, when you take the end of your thumb and push it in somewhere in your hand.
Yeah.
At the tip of your thumb, push it in until you feel a little bit of pain.
Yeah.
There's a memory in there. If there's pain, there's a memory.
Yeah.
So if you just held that, it get hotter and hotter, warmer, and mine's already cooking. and you just hold it, and any memory, any crystal that's in there would begin to dissolve into love. So what we're doing, it's called, like, how many have ever seen the starter for a gas stove, the piezo or whatever they call it? We used to call it piezo, but it's piezo, I guess. You push it and it goes spark, spark. Mm-hmm. That's what happens when we touch these crystals. They give off heat, but it's an endo-exothermic transmutation of elements. So the memory, when we make contact with it, starts to come back. It dissolves the crystal, the memory comes back, the person loves it. We're just a stimulus to make contact with the memory. And some people, you may read out what's going on in you for them. So that I would say it's different than what you just said, even though I could correlate it that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, what if your memory doesn't come back? What if you feel?
Honey, you don't ever have to ask that question. Everyone, the heat is memory.
Oh, okay.
How many again? And one of my good friends, one of my best friends, when I was younger, and now, but I mean, Rodney French, his memories and all the BE he did, which was probably 5 classes, never came back until he was doing a facilitator class with me, and he had a memory of standing in the court, and he had to pick which parent he was going to go with.
Mhm.
Oh, got it, man. And he said that little boy ran out. He left his body at that point. And when he went from that little boy ran out, meaning him ran out because he couldn't make that choice between his mom and dad. And he realized that was him, and he loved when he left. That's when he got all his memory back. He didn't have to go through body electronics. That wall was so strong in there. BE was just getting him ready. And it wasn't body electronics that did it. It was at coaching. That's why I do so much with coaching. So when we add all the skill of coaching and body language and reading it out, and again, this is just, we just remember who we are. That's the hand up there.
Yeah.
Yes. So you don't have to feel the rational mind going, well, basically, I'm not quite sure. All of that's over the minute your fingers are 240 degrees.
Okay. So your heat equals memory.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
And also it requires our complete focus.
Yes.
I'm going to get, nobody's going to be going, I wonder if I'm never is going, I mean, a little like that in the beginning, especially. I mean, I've had some people that are blowing on their fingers. And when I remind everyone, my hands are God's hands, you'll hear somebody, my hands are God's hands. That's really loud. Like, get them in there. Come on, God. I mean, and then after a while, it gets easy and fun. It's very, very exciting. Well, and Heather, you've done Meta BE, yes?
Yes.
And do your hands become God's hands?
Yes. Yes.
And is that a good idea?
Yes. And it's very important to believe that you are right on point.
Yep. You just tell yourself, I'm on the point. My hands know where to go. I always find the point. Everything you say to yourself, you're going to get. You know, I ignite miracles everywhere I go. I mean, come on, kids. Yes or no? That's the point. That was a pun, a small pun. Anyone else? I like Gwen had 61 questions, but what she really had is, am I going to be okay? That's why he's biting her little finger going, I desire to know how that's going to. And again, the mind is just, and once you feel the heat, everybody go, all right, I got it. There's nothing to figure out here. In fact, even if I'm figuring anything out, it's hotter. Quite love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. I touch and I say, I mean, after a while, everybody's just completely focused in the game and watching miracles turn into what's meant to be. That's really what it's about. Nutritionally, I'll talk about that real quick. So I'll have more of these. We have February 25th, basically, to get everybody ready. 1 month before you definitely start your nutrition. So that's January-ish 25th. And I recommend everybody start doing minerals now, maybe 1 ounce 3 times a day, mix it in juice. And when I say ounce, take the concentrates, they equal a gallon. So if you're going to do straight from the concentrate, it's 1:8 ratio. So don't take an ounce of the concentrates, or you could be blasting people behind you with green fog.
3/4 of a teaspoon of the concentrate equals 1 ounce of the diluted.
And notice I sent you that because you had a little bit different. Yeah,
Yes, I did.
Yep. So I looked that up going, anyway, so I had to know. So 1/4 or 3/4 of a teaspoon equals an ounce. And 1 ounce 3 times a day, you start with that. And eventually, ultimately, before you get, or as you get here, whatever, about 12 ounces is the great place to be if it's in a gallon version. And Adam, what have you taken when we're in the middle of it, deep on? How many ounces?
32-ish, 30 to 40 ounces, man. I mean, which is, and you guys will notice this too, like when you begin to take your minerals, each person's different. And what I noticed when I'm there, it's just like drinking water, meaning my body requires it so much. There's a thirst for these minerals that they're really not minerals. I mean, they are, but they're not. It's just something that our bodies require.
Yep. You're just charging your battery. And I was doing so many body electronics, I didn't know how many ounces were in a gallon, I'm embarrassed to say. So I was just pouring a certain amount in, and somebody goes, "What are you doing?" And I was taking 60 ounces of minerals a day. Back then, 12 was dangerous. 18 was extraordinary. I was doing 60. And one of the ways I know that maybe I was a little over the top is I went in this shed. It was a long shed, about 25 feet back, and there was no lights in it. And I went back to get something past these 8-foot fluorescent tubes that were not plugged in. There were just a whole bunch of them stacked there. And as I went by, it was dark. When I went by, they fluoresced. And so I backed up and they went off, and I went forward and they fluoresced, and I backed up, and I'm and they're going, okay. And they're going, "Stevens, where are you? Come on out, get the thing, get the shovel, whatever." And they finally had to come find me, and I'm just going. So I don't recommend 60 ounces. I recommend starting with 12, and then when you're ready for it, your body will know and you take more. And anyway, that's it. So also enzymes are going to be important. Also mag-cal, more magnesium and calcium, because your body, as it turns on, as you begin to hook up neurologically, your brain, your body will use macro minerals to activate and reactivate, re-energize your brain, memory systems, your nervous system, feeling, all that stuff. So frequently, like you may need potassium. I recommend potassium orotate. We usually have it. We definitely have mag-cal, more magnesium and calcium, and citrate gluconate and whatever else it is. I just remember. You can get any kind. Just make sure it's a chelate, gluconate, citrate, orotate, that kind of stuff. And about 1.5 to 1 is a great ratio. 70 to 50, something like that, is great for more magnesium and calcium. It should always be that way, by the way. And what's the magnesium or the calcium by Young Living?
Mega-cal.
Yeah, Mega-cal. Mega-cal has more mag than cal, so you're okay on that one. Gary obviously knew what he was doing on that one as well. So more mag than cal, lots of enzymes, and then I'll give you the way to do the nutrition. So start now. I mean, just get used to it. Move toward more fresh and raw foods. One of the ways to do that, especially in winter, is sprouts. So if you get a salad, instead of using iceberg lettuce, which is an opiate, use the other types of exotic leaf lettuces, that kind of stuff. And use lots of like lentil. All the different sprouts are really helpful, and they're much higher in protein than beef is. So lots of sprouts. Move toward 80% alkaline food. Get a little chart and take a look. And about 20% acid, about 75% fresh and raw. And then if you can move away from red meat, I'm going to say pork, you might as well just eliminate pork. I mean, just get rid of pork. And here's why. Pork, we did this way back, but they took pork, baked it at 500 degrees for 4 hours, took that piece of meat out, took a piece out and put it in a petri dish, and it grew trichinosis. Not the best of food for you. So I recommend that you don't do that. And beef, the same thing. If you've ever been with a cow, how many know they're like pretty? So
and pigs don't have any sweat glands, so everything that they're consuming energetically, what they eat, toxins, they hold in their body. They have no way to excrete anything.
Thank you for that. No, just kidding. So just reduce it. This is not compulsion. Move toward more fresh and raw, all that kind of stuff. And then if you're going to eat poultry, get organic poultry, white, deep ocean fish. That's the best. Lots of veggies and lots of greens and green drinks. That's the way to get your body ready to go through a metamorphosis. Got it? So the more you can be ready for that, just move in that direction. It's not compulsion. That's just the way you do it. Big Mac, filet of fish, quarter pound of French fry, icy cold thick shake sundae, and apple pie will not be your favorite song by the time you're done. Cool. Who else? Any other comments, questions? So anyways, yes, Pamela.
I have a question. You said mostly green drinks and vegetables. What about fruits?
Okay, fruit, great. Make sure it's ripe, always alone.
Yes. I'm just so used to detoxing, like the regenerative.
No, hold on. From now on, don't call it detoxing.
Oh, okay.
Call it cleansing and purifying.
Okay, I'm so used to cleansing and purifying with fruit, and I'm not crazy about green drinks, though.
All right, well, fruit's great. Just make sure it's ripe.
Yes, and it's always organic,
Good.
and
make
it's
great
about
sense.
it's probably about 70% of my diet of raw foods and stuff.
Great. Awesome.
Is that okay, or I have to
Sure,
add
that's
the
great.
greens?
Yep. And if you can add to that lots of sprouts, you're in sweet spot. Just and everyone realize the minerals are going to raise your frequency beyond measure. And so you may actually require a little bit more of the protein, like, because the key now is instead of detoxing, it's building.
Well, I do take lots of amino acids because my body does not like protein at all.
Hold on. Have you ever done, you're talking about animal protein, right?
And even if I do, no, I don't touch animal protein anymore. I'm just like nuts even hurt me now.
Everything's sprouted, everything's soaked. Try sprouts. I believe you're going to have, in my experience, sprouts make everything easy. And we'll have a lot of them while you're here.
Okay.
Because you'll be sprouting.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Anyone that is, go ahead, Amy.
You said in 3 ounces of the minerals, so 3 ounces, but an ounce 3 times a day.
Yeah, always never take them all at once. Always spread them out as much as you can.
Okay.
If you're doing 12 ounces a day, maybe 1 ounce 12 times a day, because you're like the minerals. If you were to take an 8-ounce glass of raw sewage, put 1 ounce of minerals in there in a short period of time, all the raw sewage would be at the bottom, and it'd be the equivalent of distilled water on top. So the minerals do not have to go through digestion. And so if you soak your feet in them, you're going to taste them. So I recommend everybody a little bit frequently is much better than all at once, especially if it's a challenge for people.
Okay, and one more question. You mentioned regards to sprouts, the red clover. Is there any other sprouts that you lean?
Yes, lentil. Look them up. There's a ton of different types. Lentil.
Oh,
my favorite.
I grow 10 different types myself.
Good. They're all good.
I add red clover, but I was wondering if there was any powerhouses besides the red clover that you would recommend.
They're all powerhouses.
Okay.
Acorns. No, just kidding. Ambrosia. I remember that. Cool.
What about
we'll talk more when we get close by. This is just getting everybody in the game. How many are going, okay, then I am already.
Do you do amaranth?
I mean, I have.
You have. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I make my life easy. I'm loving pea sprouts these days, organic pea sprouts. Man, they come online in like 20 hours and they robust and they're crunchy. So I take a pea frequently. Anyway, I like it. Cynthia, you were being my daughter just then. You went, oh my God, I can't believe it. It's just to pee or to pee. That is the answer. Yes, Carlin.
Yes, I wanted to ask if the results that you get from all the benefits and everything, is that permanent?
That's up to you.
And in my experience, you can go backwards. But anybody in the game that's using this, even the question of is it permanent is your doubt cell. So what do you choose?
Permanent.
Yep. And that's where I am my permanent victory in the light. Karen, say that. Carlin.
My permanent victory.
I am my permanent victory in the light.
I am my permanent victory in the light.
Say it again.
I am my permanent victory in the light.
So anyone coming is going to be having me be all over everybody like white on rice, meaning what they say. Got it? So is it going to backfire? It's up to you. Adam said it perfectly, but it's up to me to make sure everybody's in the game going, I choose this. I am this. And again, what I've learned, I really believe it's true now in my spiritual path. It says all forward movement is permanent. And I have found that true. I might waffle for a while, but I mean, grace is calling us all home. So I'm going to say that grace provides it, not my little self. I'm going to usually when I surrender my little self, grace goes, thank you, done deal. So I am my permanent victory in the light is what I ask everyone, start right now. I am my permanent victory, and then vote everyone else. I am your permanent victory in the light. So great question, Emma. Once you experience this amount of heat and get through it to the other side, you'll be going, I am the one. I mean, hello. So that's my experience anyway. Anyone else? So Adam at masterysystem.com. If anybody isn't yet registered, we had 2 more come online today to register. So, and we'll go, we're at 20, almost 30 now, I believe that's about right, 30. So 36 is one of our points of reference, and then we'll go to 48 will be the next thing. Some will be staying off site. We found some things locally that are within a mile or two to be able to stay off site, which is great and very reasonable. So just know that's all happening. So great food, great location. I mean, if you haven't been to our website, masterysystems.com, go take a look at our center, which will be for sale after this. Will probably be sold by then, but my kids are going, no, we're going to save it for you, Dad. Because anyway, they're running their trucking company. It's like, this is with all the COVID stuff and homeschooling, they're going, no, it cannot do the bed and breakfast. It's full all the time. And they require just having somebody else run it. So thank you all for coming on tonight. And
Okay, have a good night, y'all.
Yes, sleep well. And remember, I am your permanent victory in the light. Permanent. And Catherine Alexis, good seeing you, my dear. All right, love you all.